Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is February 12th. Okay, so today so this should give you a bit of a hint. This is the crystal that I have sitting beside me, okay? A beautiful, incredible piece of smoky quartz, which I am using to deflect all negativity and all negative energies, because I'm going to take a look at Russian interference in your elections today. So that's the plan for today's video. Before I get there, there's just a couple of things I want to take care of, housekeeping notes. First, Jerry thanks each and every one of you for all of the wonderful, wonderful happy birthday wishes. He was so thrilled to receive them. And he's a happy boy. He's still recovering. You know, it was a big party yesterday for him. I have been getting a couple of requests for a pet parade. So I've talked it over with the animals, and we've decided that Valentine's Day is the perfect time to do a pet parade so that they can send love out to all of you. So you can look forward to that or make a plan to, avoid it, whichever works for you. So yesterday, I got a comment from one of my regular viewers who wanted to know why I had such animosity towards Bernie. And so I thought that I would just share energetically the feelings that I am receiving, okay? And I know that this is a really tender topic, because as soon as I say anything about Bernie that isn't glowing, people literally unsubscribe. I get flooded with, all of these reasons why Bernie is amazing. And I don't argue. The things that he talks about are unbelievably important. I live in Canada. I get the whole Medicare thing for all, because that's how I have grown up. That is how I have lived. But this is my concern. The backlash that was created when Obama sort of created that Obamacare was huge. It was massive. And I really, really believe that it was only towards the end of the presidency and as the next election started to happen that people actually started to realize that the thing that they didn't like was actually the thing that they like, just called by a different name. Your country, it absolutely needs Medicare for all. It absolutely needs some help with prescription prices. There's all kinds of stuff that really, really, needs to be addressed. This is my concern. And this is energetically, my personal opinions are not in this because I agree with Bernie. However, energetically, what I am picking up is the fact that Bernie's policies could be just a little bit too far left, especially coming, on the heels of a Donald Trump. And that is going to scare sort of middle of the road Democrats, independents, and those Republicans that are looking to not vote for him. And that is what really scares me, because if that vote sort of starts getting split off, right, and you've got these two fractions of people who just don't agree on the way forward for the country, you're setting yourself up potentially for a replay of 2016, and that scares the entire globe, okay? So that is my concern about Bernie, is that he's just a bit too far left. And I think that whoever gets in is going to end up having to address the issues of Medicare, and it's going to have to address the issues of figuring out how to get your insurance companies to back down a little bit. And they're going to have to figure out something for your prescription prices. These things are not going to get swept under the carpet. It doesn't matter who gets elected. But there is definitely a feeling that it could just be too much, too fast. And not that you all don't deserve it. You absolutely do deserve everything he wants. I just am nervous for your country, because I think that it might be a bit too much in one fell swoop. Not to mention, the kind of resistance that gets created when a whole bunch of people don't really agree with the road forward. Okay, so that's the energy I'm feeling and receiving, and that is what I am passing on to you. For Bernie supporters, go for it. Support him all you want. I just really, really hope that everybody understands that no matter who the nominee is, it's super, super important that you vote blue, irregardless. And this is why I heard a poll yesterday, and this actually really concerned me. And I don't have the numbers perfect because it sort of flitted out of my brain, but these numbers I remember. So it was something like 57% of people, 55% as of this poll really, really disapprove of the way Trump is handling the presidency. Okay, they don't like him and they don't like what he's doing. However, 57% believe that Donald Trump is either for sure going to be reelected, or that it is very, very likely he is going to be reelected. 6% of people polled definitely thought he was going to lose the next election. 6%. So, I think that that's part of the reason that there's sort of a bit of concern, because 6% is not enough to band together and get him out of office. So, it's early days yet. I'm not saying this is set in concrete, but understand that that's energetically sort of what's going on out there. And so that, of course, led me to the decision that I really wanted to take a look at Russian interference, because I think that they have their fingers in more pies than people want to acknowledge or admit to. And as Trump continues to be completely out of control, and he is, countries have been given the carte blanche to really just continue to interfere as long as it benefits him. And of course, they want him in office because he's a puppet. Okay? So that's sort of energetically what I'm processing right now, and what we're going to look at. So here we go. Yesterday it was announced that Trump doesn't like the recommended sentence that was suggested by the Department of Justice for Roger Stone. He thought it was incredibly, incredibly unfair. And guess what? The Department of Justice is backing down. That's how out of control things are. And, I sometimes wish that there would really be more attention paid to what it is that these nominees, what their plan is. Really, what is your plan for regaining the trust of your allies around the world? What is your plan for locking down your elections going forward? What is your plan to push, Russia and China and Saudi Arabia back? And I don't hear that. So again, it's a concern. All right, let's take a look at Russia. Come on down. I got a question. Go make some space for me here. Okay, one more quick shuffle. Voting interference election. Voting interference election. Voting interference election. I phrased it that way because while I believe that Russia is doing the most of the interfering, or will be, or has been. I think that there's some other countries that are starting to jump on board. So I want to see if we can get sort of a bit of a broad understanding of what's going on here. Okay, so the cups, the Ace of Cups stayed on the bottom, so we'll take a look at that. Except it makes perfect sense. So hang on here. Yeah. All right. So all right. There is a great deal that is going on behind the scenes. There is so much more happening than people know, or honestly, that people are sort of putting together. You know, it's like something happens and you go, oh, that's not good. And then something else happens and you go, geez, that's kind of weird. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of connecting the pieces together so that you can see the big picture. You know, so in the Iowa thing, there was all the phone calls that flooded the reporting of the votes. And so what happened was the votes couldn't get reported. Now, you know, it was the Republicans who were doing that. Okay, well, who was egging on the Republicans? Who created this suggestion? I'm not so sure that was completely organic in terms of the United States Republican Party. Understand? I think maybe they might have had a few suggestions come along. And so they are going to do, the countries that are interfering, and for sure right now, Russia definitely is sort of head of the class, okay? They are doing everything in their power to rev up people's emotions, because they know that if they do, they're going to be able to create a situation where people think that the Trump administration and another 4 years of the Trump presidency are going to be better. It's going to be better than whatever the Democrats have in mind. And I've mentioned this before. The reason and the way that they're going to create that is by causing division within the Democratic Party. And in doing that, you start to splinter off the votes. So they've got, it's sort of two-pronged, right? For right now, they're just trying to create a lot of division and a lot of interference and, you know, miscommunications, false narratives, etc. Because that's going to work for them, because you know why? It worked last time. Plus, they're doing this sort of let's divide and conquer thing, right? Let's cause enough friction within the Democratic Party itself that nobody actually really gets a super strong backing. And so what that does is it causes sort of the people who are middle of the road, the Republicans, the middle of the road Democrats, the independents, to kind of start waffling. Because there's a lot of independents out there and even Republicans out there who sort of, from what I can gather, are saying, okay, if it's this person, and this person, I will vote blue. However, if it's this person or this person, I will not. I will vote Trump. And so that's exactly who they're targeting. They want those people who are a little bit on the fence, kind of leaning one way, but have feel that falling back is a safe bet. That's where the concern comes. And that, frankly, is exactly what is being targeted. They are doing everything in their power to ensure that Trump's reign does not end. And trust me, you know, right now there's so little being done, sort of honestly, in the United States because of the Trump administration to block or prevent this kind of stuff. It's going to become more rampant than it is even right now. Now, And there's definitely, okay, there is definitely interference coming from more than one place across the ocean. All right. I'm going to say China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia, although I think Saudi Arabia is I have a feeling that if they start to get really active with this, it's going to be closer to the actual election. But right now, there are a lot of forces and a lot of energy that really, really are pushing for Trump, to have success, to be victorious. And they're doing it in a way that they're creating so much division that is how the deed gets accomplished. It's putting people in position where they really, really aren't sure of the decisions they're making. Okay, they're not feeling comfortable about the choices they're making in terms of voting. See, energetically, it is just as important to get Trump out of office as it is to have a strategic plan on how to start course correction. And there's so much stuff that needs to be corrected within your borders, and yet there is so much stuff that now is going to need to be corrected, sort of globally, because the kind of pushback against Donald Trump that your allies would like to see isn't surging yet. And that is what's creating a lot of these sort of allies to sort of reevaluate. They recognize that they can't push too hard in one direction because Trump is so vindictive that he could literally compromise any other country's national security or their economy because he doesn't care what he wrecks. He just doesn't care what he wrecks. And he doesn't care if he wrecks it in the United States, and he doesn't care if he wrecks it in Canada or France or Germany or Australia. He doesn't care. Does not care. So there is that, right? I mean, that is definitely sort of the energy that's swirling around right now. And people are waiting to hear exactly how this course correction is going to happen. What is going to happen to actually change the wheel of fortune from going in Trump's favor? And with only 6% of the people thinking that he can actually be beat, that's concerning. You have the King and Queen of Wands here showing up. And this is talking to me about communications. It's talking to me about technology. It's talking to me about what is going on Facebook and false information and information that's not anywhere near correct being just put out there in a completely unregulated way. It is talking to me about the messages that are going to be used to create the division. And it's going to be coming from everywhere. That's the problem. Okay? And if things start looking like, they're leaning a little bit against Trump, make no mistake, the outside influences are literally going to create chaos within your borders, not unlike what happened in Iowa. Right? It's just going to create a sense of chaos, because what that does is it makes people feel that their voting system isn't safe. It feels like their vote doesn't count. And then that translates to, well, why bother? It doesn't matter. It doesn't count. I give up. I surrender. That's exactly the energy they're hoping for. And again, I keep saying this, it worked last time. It worked last time. That is exactly how Trump got into office, and they have no intentions of changing the playbook, frankly, because it worked. And in fact, the only way that playbook is going to get changed is it's going to be ramped up. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be stronger. It's going to be more in your face. And that is going to impact. People are going to just start believing whatever they hear because it's so crazy and it's so chaotic that they can't really make sense of it. So they're going to listen to whatever voice speaks the loudest. And who do we think has the loudest voice right now? Yep, more communications. Okay, so the disinformation campaign is going to be massive. And again, you've got the emotions being put into effect. They're going to stoke a lot of fear. They're going to stoke a lot of resentment. They're going to create that energy of, well, you know, if your person didn't get in, just sit out the election. You know, just forget it. That is the war, literally, that is being fought right now in your country. And like I said, you've got government agencies who are giving it their best shot. They're doing what they can to fight it, except Trump and the Republicans are not willing to do actually anything to strengthen what is going on. Yeah, you know, he threw a little bit of money in there in the budget, and yeah, the Democrats were able to sneak a few things in, you know, around that. But when you really, really get down to it, you know, the Republicans and Trump are doing more to empower interference, certainly, than they are doing to, you know, counter it, right? All right, so now I want to take a look at, because that was singularly concerning, frankly, everything I just said. That's troublesome and worrying. So I want to take a look at if there is going to be sufficient guardrails and if there is going to be sufficient pushback to create an environment where people can have some confidence about the state of your elections. Here we go. 2020 election security, 2020 election security, 2020 election security. Okay, this is good news, people. This is good news. So the energy that I'm getting is, as long as people completely resist becoming divided, as long as there is some sort of a really powerful, united front that is going to push back against Trump and push back against his lies and push back against everything Trump, frankly, okay? And again, that's the energy that I keep feeling, is it's not really about policy. I'm sorry. It's about who can beat him, who is electable, and who is electable broadly across the spectrum, okay? So as long as there is a pushback against this division, it looks as if there is going to be enough guardrails put into place to secure the election votes. Do I think there's going to be interference in certain pockets that are not quite so safe? I absolutely do. I'm sorry. But I think by and large, you're going to have an environment where people are going to As it draws closer and closer, people are going to get more and more comfortable with the fact that their votes are going to count. You have the angel of temperance sitting here, right? So again, it's all about maintaining that balance. It's all about bringing in the greatest number of people and coming together as a united front. And with her here, she's saying, you know what, it is absolutely possible. There is going to be some real pushback against this kind of interference. Certainly going forward, there's going to be a lot of pushback. There's going to be a lot of stuff that happens legislatively that will allow some of this really desperately needed course correction. There continues to be kind of a sense of, well, if I don't like what I'm hearing, if it makes me scared, if it makes me nervous, I'm going to cross my arms and say, no, thank you. And that's about a lot of stuff, okay? That's not only about who people are voting for. That's about, I don't want to think about the election interference. I don't want to think about how unstable our country is. I don't want to think about the fact that it appears as if our stock market is being manipulated. I don't want to think about the fact that they are closing down national parks and encouraging oil production to the detriment of the planet. And again, I live in Alberta, okay? I understand the importance of oil, but one of the things that we want to do is create alternatives. And again, people are so overwhelmed that they're just closing down, they're shutting down and saying, I can't take anymore. And again, that becomes a real concern, right? Because when you shut down, when you become resistant to actually hearing the news, then you're not going to be in a position to be able to get riled up to fight it enough, right? There's not going to be enough momentum and energy to really, really push back because people have almost gone into kind of like a fetal position. So it really is time for the energy to kind of get ramped up so that this defeat can be accomplished, this pushback against this kind of interference. And should that happen, should there be enough pushback, should there be enough force directed at stopping it, enough force to bring it down, the country is going to be victorious. Groups are going to come together and work for the common good. You know, not every election is the end of the world election. Sometimes elections have to be done almost in pieces so that the most urgent stuff gets taken care of and the second most urgent stuff gets addressed, but perhaps not completely fixed or changed. So, and again, I think that all the things that you need for your country in terms of Medicare and lower tuition costs, et cetera, that's as it should be. That's incredibly important. But is it more important than ultimately not ending up a country that is run by Russia and China? I guess that becomes the question. And we have the Two of Cups and we have the Lovers here. So that's talking about really the potential for this being able to come together. And, it's going to get to a place where as long as there's a bit of a united front, there's going to be safety and there's going to be a sense of I can trust that my vote counts and I can trust that the system has not been so manipulated that we basically have no say and our input doesn't matter, okay? There's going to be surges going forward. And frankly, I actually think that you're going to start getting some news or some information, maybe not this week or next week, but March, April, maybe, that really starts to advance the knowledge that is being put out about exactly how much interference is going on. Not only how much interference is going on from outside the country, but in fact, how much resistance and interference is going on literally from the Trump administration. And so that may very well be part of what it takes to sort of get people rattled enough that they really, really start reacting. But I can promise you that 6%, that needs to get huge. It needs to get much, much bigger, because I can't remember how many people thought it was likely he would be voted out of office. But the bottom line was, however the numbers worked, more people thought he would be in or get in. So let's stay positive. Let's stay focused on what we can do. Let's stay focused on how the positive energy, and again, positive energy does not mean complacent energy. It does not mean that you don't phone your representatives. It does not mean that you don't go to rallies. It does not mean that you don't talk to your neighbors or your family, except for the ones who are crazy Trump supporters, because that only is going to give you a headache. And sort of start building momentum again. The trial, the hearing, the whole thing has really, really put a little bit of water on Americans. Are they going to get steamed enough from that water and push back? You bet they are. Trump is not as strong as he is presenting. He is not strong. He is weak. He does not have a lot of support the way you would be given to believe if you actually listen to what they said, okay? But what you do have, what is reflected in that poll, is the fact that there is almost this sense of surrender. I don't want him in there, but yeah, he's probably going to get in there. So, do what? Okay, so let's just stay positive. Let's stay focused. Let's become active. Let's do what needs to be done. And as far as the caucuses and the primaries are going, those are going to continue to roll forward. And, in I don't know, kind of by sort of March, the beginning of March, and I know there's like a Super Tuesday going on there. There's going to be a lot more clarity about what you're working with going forward, and that's going to give everybody a much clearer idea of exactly sort of how big the mountain is that needs to be climbed in terms of getting this fool out of office. Okay, I only have one more housekeeping note to take care of. Okay, so everybody has done an absolutely fabulous job of sending rain to Australia to combat those fires. I received a message from one of my regular viewers in Australia, and she said, literally, please stop sending rain. We are getting flooded. And what happens when you have strong rains after a fire is the earth can't absorb it, right? There's nothing to sort of slow the rain down because it's not getting absorbed by the trees and the land because it's all scorched earth. And she said, literally, the floods are terrible. People's houses are floating away. Okay, so let's stop with the rain. To Australia, and I think maybe if we're going to send Australia anything, let us send the weather that most supports the country's healing. I think that's probably the way to go there. All right. Again, thank you so very, very much for subscribing, liking. Your comments are brilliant. And just as I wrap up, again, if you're interested in getting a private reading, the information is in that box below, and I'm more than happy to look at scheduling that and sending you the information out so you know if that's something that you would like to follow through on. Certainly the response that I get from people who have had readings is incredibly positive, and they all seem to feel that it has been a really good experience. So there's that. Until next time, take care, be well, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.